take halls on Inferno, and then after taking it, I'm going to teach how to lurk. So starting off, I think everyone knows the basic, I guess, method of taking halls. So just molly up there with a teammate jumping up, and then one guy coming freezer. I'm usually this freezer guy, so I'll tell you from my perspective. I like to come here and hold for the AWP pick. Sometimes AWPers go for that fast halls pick. Not that common, but it's worth holding for. Once your teammate's jumped up, it's good to come here, give this a little bit of a spam in case there's an AWPer on that line. I like to kind of spam that, give these a bit of a jiggle for the CTs who play this line, and if there's someone on this close line. They're all really good lines for the CTs, and because I have the right eye peak here, it's good to give it a bit of a jiggle. It's hard for them to really kill you doing that. After that, I like to give this a bit of a flash, swing with it, kill the AWPer. There's a guy here, he's usually full white, and yeah, at that point, you probably should have halls, unless the CTs are being super aggressive in it. Probably the most you'll come up against these days is one of these dig players doing a molly like this, which is going to deny your teammate from jumping up, and because of the timing of it, your halls molly will be down before this one goes down. So it kind of lets the boiler player walk into halls a little more. So if that happens, I think it's okay to keep doing what you're doing and then just maybe give this a molly, or just take it a bit slower and let your teammate try to progress up and call what he's hearing, because that is quite a good position for this this boiler guy. He gets kind of some good fights here against you guy jumping up, and usually if that happens, it'll mean he might have an AWPer holding his freezer for it, or at least a rifle like on one of these lines. So just be a little cautious of it. But apart from that, I feel like at that point you pretty much have halls. So after that, you'll probably have your IGL calling a mid take. So, you know, like a smoke jungle, molly under porch, flash out. So by that point in the round, maybe like a minute 10, your team should have bracket control, halls control, and then hopefully you've also got Nana control, but that depends if they're contesting hard or not. So ideal world, you have all three, and then that kind of lets your caller decide where they want to go. From there, lurking halls especially is usually, I guess mainly I'll be speaking for when your team's grouping B and you're the solo wing. There's a couple things I like to do in this situation. One of the classic Inferno lurks is to deadlock, which is basically where you just pick a spot like this, and your job is just to kill the last guy rotating from A. I like doing this if your team's planning on executing with like 50 seconds left or something. It means that if you kill this guy rotating, like here, he's coming out of pit, you kill him, you can pretty much just jump, take pit, get into headshot like this, and then from here your team can pretty comfortably come back A. Or you can jump out and kind of go sight. Sometimes it's good to, if you still got your smoke, you can smoke mini and kind of clear here, just in case their dig player was getting a bit sneaky and walked halls behind you or something like that. They can cut off your teammates, but basically, if you're lurking like this, it's always good to tell your team not to full commit into B. So they're doing the execute. They'll probably send in to like two riflers, I guess, maybe even 3. But you want to try and keep the bomb on someone at the back. So if things don't work out at B, you can always rubber band back to A. And yeah, you kind of won the round by deadlocking. That's one of my favorite things to do. Another deadlock you can do is just like this. You just hit a boiler and you're holding for the dig player trying to rotate. So generally, when players rotate off A, a lot of them like to, well, it depends on who you're versing, but a lot of them like to come and clear mid. So you're trying to get a guy as he's peeking this line, like jiggling mid, you're holding this, so you can kind of catch him on an angle like he would have cleared boiler like this, and then as he's going like this, you're now on the line. So those are two places I like deadlocking, or you can always sit just here in mid and just hold basically the Nana flank, and then blow through CT late round to kind of come behind them as they're retaking the site. So those are 3 places that you can try at deadlock. See how it goes. Otherwise, if you want to put a bit of pressure on before your team goes, so maybe at like 30 seconds or so, 35, 40, something like that. Your team wants to full commit to B. You don't want them rubber banding back to A. Things I like to do is do the haycart smoke. So this smoke puts a ton of pressure on the pick guy. They pretty much have to blow some util to block it. Otherwise, you can just horse bust behind it, or even just horse contact behind it as a team. So, but it's got a little one-way here, so you can kill anyone on site. If they're playing lines, you can see the rotate like this. Don't stay up there too long, but yep, I like doing that smoke. Otherwise, you can do a balk smoke like this. It just lands on the balk. It's like a bit further out, so this one you can't really get any kills with, but it's a lot harder for them to deny this smoke. It blocks them from getting a lot of info, I feel like, and they can't really feel safe rotating or like leaving their spots at all when this smoke's up, because they're kind of just like, you could just be sitting in that and just flash pop and the round's over. You win the round. So it puts a lot of pressure on them. Both smokes are good. That's like what you can do with a smoke and horse. Alternatively, you can, if you don't want to lurk halls, if you feel like you've been playing in halls a bit too much, so you know you think they know that you're in there, and the pressure's already there, so you can come back here and do a 3/4 smoke, I call it. So like this wrap smoke, just bounces off there and lands here. So you can just walk out of halls, come back, do that smoke, and then group with your team at Nana, so you've got 5 going into B with the execute. This smoke's pretty, I quite like this smoke, so basically if they don't have info on dig or halls, which at this point you're kind of hoping they don't, because you had halls control and you had dig control, or big control, sorry. This smoke generally is going to draw this third rotator back to A, because someone has to hold the arch cross, like most likely he'll end up playing here or this lane, but they can't just leave it empty basically, because generally late round on A, if they a suspect of a B hit, they'll have 1 pit and 1 site, or double site, or double pit. It's kind of like the 3 setups that you can do at A. You pretty much have to pick one of them and go for it. And then their third guy, the rotator, the AWPer usually, he's going to be, he would have been AWPing this line, he would have got smoked off, he would have fallen, maybe to mini. It goes quiet at A, he thinks, alright, I'm going to come B, so he starts rotating to B, and then he hears that smoke come in, and he has to stay here now. He's on this line, because they don't have any info on mid, and they don't have any info really at B or anywhere. And so what that lets you do is, when your team's executing, they do the B execute, and there's only 2 on site, instead of having even the AWPer here just to do like a flash or something. That can lose you the round. Your last option is to try and basically just take space. So if you feel like, you know, if you've been lurking halls like 3, 4 gun rounds or something like that in a row, and you feel like the passive pressure of you being there in those previous rounds is enough, then you don't actually have to go to halls, because the threat of you being there from the previous rounds means that this pit player is just going to assume that you're there again. He's going to be uncomfortable rotating because he's been killed like with your deadlock, he's been killed with the one-way, or he's been faked out with the this smoke, so he won't want to rotate, he'll just want to stay. Especially if you've killed him and then rubber banded back to A. So if you've killed him and then your team's come and planted the bomb on A, he'll feel like he has to stay in pit for a long time. So that's already 1 player that you've guaranteed is staying A, so that's already half of your job done. You just need to keep like another one there. So you can try and lurk up jungle. So basically after your team leaves mid, you can just hold dig, and then as they're executing B, you can kind of come and try walk up jungle like this, and then you should know for a fact that there's 2 players towards side, like from here onwards there's 2. So if you're able to get up jungle and they don't know, then you can pretty much kill, again, this is like another form of deadlocking I guess, but you can kill the rotators, so you can cut off any kind of rotations, and then you can flank, and they're in a situation where they either have to fight your team or they have to fight you. They can't just stay how they are, because they're just getting crunched from two different spots. If you are doing this, be careful not to overpeak the coffin line, because it's pretty common that if this happens, the AWPer will just come and post on you from here. So staying alive in CT is it's just such good pressure that you just want to make sure that you're staying alive like this. Or, you know, try and kill the rotation and then go into that, I guess. Only thing is that leaves Nana open, so you just have to communicate that to your team that that they can flank. But yeah, that's pretty much like the four ways that I like to low calls. So give it a go. Let me know how it goes, and yeah, hopefully that was helpful.